Armin Malik was one of the richest businessmen in the city, but all his wealth meant nothing compared to the pain he carried in his heart. His 8-year-old son, Zion, had never walked a single step in his life. Doctors had diagnosed him with a rare neurological condition at birth. They said his legs were structurally fine, but his brain refused to send the signals needed for movement. Armin had tried every hospital, every therapist, every specialist around the world. Nothing worked. Hope slowly drained out of him, and the once cheerful father turned into a silent, stressed man who buried his emotions behind work. Zion lived most of his life in a wheelchair, quietly watching other children play from afar. He rarely smiled. His world was small: his room, his books, his wheelchair, and his lonely heart. Armin loved him deeply but didn't know how to help. He smothered the boy with expensive toys, tutors, and gadgets, but nothing filled the emotional void. One morning, Armin hired a new live-in maid named Miriam. She came from a humble background, dressed simply, spoke softly, and carried a calm warmth about her. Armin didn't expect much from her. She was just supposed to clean and manage household tasks. But from the first day, Miriam noticed something more important than dust or laundry. She noticed the sadness in Zion's eyes. Instead of treating him like a fragile child, she spoke to him like a friend. She brought him tea when she made some for herself. She told him stories from her village. She made him laugh by imitating funny animal sounds. Slowly, Zion began to smile more, something even therapists hadn't achieved. One afternoon, when Armin came home early from work, he heard laughter coming from the backyard. It was Zion's laughter, the sound he had almost forgotten. Curious, he stepped outside and froze. Miriam was sitting on the ground barefoot with Zion. She had placed a few stones in front of him and drew shapes on the dirt. She wasn't teaching him to walk. She wasn't giving therapy. She was simply playing with him, treating him like a normal kid. Armin watched, stunned, as his son leaned forward, stretched his legs, and tried to copy her movements. Later that evening, Armin approached Miriam. "What are you doing differently?" he asked. She smiled gently. "Sir, no one ever talked to him like a real child. They treat him like a patient. But he wants to be seen, not pitied." That night, Armin couldn't sleep. Had he been doing everything wrong? He had given Zion every luxury but had never given him the one thing he needed most: trust. Days passed, and Miriam continued spending time with Zion, encouraging him to move little by little. She never forced him. She only motivated him by example. If she needed something from the table, she asked him, "Can you try to reach it for me?" If he said he couldn't, she smiled and replied, "Just try. I'm right here." One morning, something unbelievable happened. Zion was sitting in his wheelchair near the living room window when Miriam walked in carrying a tray. She suddenly slipped on the floor and the tray fell from her hands. Everything crashed loudly. Startled, Zion's eyes widened, his instinct kicked in. Without thinking, he pushed himself up using the armrests, and he stood. His legs trembled, knees shaking violently, but he stood, something he had never done in his life. Miriam looked up in disbelief. Tears filled her eyes, not because of the fall, but because she saw the impossible happening right before her. "Zion, beta, you're standing," she whispered. Zion didn't hear her. His focus was on her. She needed help. She always helped him. Now it was his turn. Step by shaky step, he moved toward her. 3 steps. 4. Then 5. He reached her and held her arm to steady her. Armin walked into the room exactly at that moment. The sight before him made his breath stop. His son, his little boy, was standing on his feet. Walking. Helping someone. Armin dropped his briefcase and stumbled forward, covering his mouth with his hands as tears streamed down his cheeks. "Zion, my son, you're walking." It felt like a miracle. Zion looked at his father with a shy, proud smile. "I didn't want Miriam to get hurt," he said softly. "So I just tried." Armin rushed forward and hugged him tightly, crying into his hair. "I'm so proud of you, so proud." Miriam stepped back, wiping her own tears. "Sir, he always had the strength," she whispered. "He just needed a reason to believe in himself." Over the next weeks, Zion continued improving. Doctors were stunned, unable to explain how a child who hadn't walked for 8 years suddenly broke through his mental barrier. They called it a psychological breakthrough, triggered by emotional motivation. But Armin called it something else: faith, love, and the power of a kind heart. Zion eventually walked freely, running through the house, laughing like he had never laughed before. Armin gave Miriam a permanent, respected position in their home and treated her like family, and from that day onward, Armin made sure Zion never felt alone again.